It began with a sound no one on Earth was meant to hear. In February 2025, a leaked audio file from NASA's Deep Space Listening Array began circulating on a hidden corner of the Internet. The file, according to those who claimed to have heard it, contained a signal, not random noise, not the familiar crackle of cosmic background radiation, but structured patterns, 5 tones, a pause, then a deep, resonating hum. Officially, NASA denied everything. The audio, they claimed, was a hoax, a fabrication by online pranksters. But by the time they issued that statement, it was already too late. The file had been mirrored, copied, and dissected by amateur radio astronomers worldwide. The first person to risk their career over this was Dr. Thomas Keller, a senior communications analyst at the Goldstone Deep Space Communications Complex. Keller claimed he was ordered to scrub all references to signal 045 Delta from internal logs. In a leaked email, he wrote, "It's not just a sound, it's language, and it's not human." Within 48 hours of speaking to an independent journalist, Keller vanished. His car was found in the Mojave Desert, engine still running, driver's side door open, no footprints leading away. This wasn't the first time an unexplained broadcast had been received. In 1977, Southern England experienced a mysterious interruption of a live news broadcast, replaced by a calm, deep voice claiming to represent the Intergalactic Federation. Known as the Vrillon Incident, it lasted 6 minutes before the signal abruptly cut back to normal programming. The UK government labelled it a hoax, but the source was never found. Now, nearly 5 decades later, the first signal of 2025 bore a haunting resemblance to that event. But this time, the audio contained coordinates. The numbers translated to a remote point in the Pacific Ocean, thousands of miles from any land. Satellite imagery from that location revealed nothing unusual, until analysts compared images from the week before the signal with the day after. In the after images, there was a faint, circular disturbance in the water, over 300 meters across. Within 72 hours, the area was declared a no-navigation zone by the U.S. Navy, citing live fire training exercises. Civilian vessels attempting to approach were turned away at gunpoint. Amateur radio operators in California, Japan, and Australia reported catching fragments of encrypted military transmissions referencing Object A9 and containment breach protocols. One operator, who wished to remain anonymous, claimed he heard a panicked voice say, "It's not debris, it's moving." The recording was posted online. Hours later, his account was deleted, his equipment seized in what was described as an unrelated tax investigation. On March 3rd, a Japanese fishing trawler sent a distress call from within the restricted zone. The captain's final words were chilling. "It's under the water. Too big, too fast, static." The trawler was found 3 days later, drifting and empty. No signs of struggle, no blood, but every single piece of onboard electronics, radios, navigation systems, even watches, had been completely erased of all data. By late March, scientists from unofficial research groups had broken down the original signal into visual spectrograms. Hidden in the frequency bands was a repeating pattern that resembled a waveform, but also, eerily, a human face. Facial recognition algorithms returned no match in any database, except one, a blurred photograph from a classified Department of Defense archive dated 1954, labeled only Unknown Visitor. Holloman AFB, a former NSA technician, speaking under the pseudonym Harbinger, reached out to a conspiracy podcast, claiming the 2025 signal was not the first. They've been sending it for decades. The difference now is, they got an answer. When the host pressed for details, the call abruptly dropped. Later that night, Harbinger's social media accounts, every single one, were erased in real time. While listeners watched during a live stream, in April 2025, a 28-second clip surfaced on an encrypted messaging channel. The audio began with the familiar 5-tone sequence, and then a voice speaking perfect English. "Your governments have lied to you. We are already here." The clip cut to static. 3 hours later, the account that posted it was deleted, along with thousands of other accounts connected to it. The first signal was not just a message, it was a warning. But if it was a warning, who, or what, was it warning us about? After the first signal, the world was told it was nothing, an audio hoax, a prank. But behind closed doors, the Pentagon called it something else: Operation Black Mirror, declassified in fragments through heavily redacted Freedom of Information Act requests. Black Mirror was a covert orbital defense initiative. Its stated purpose: to monitor anomalous aerial phenomena and intercept any incoming threat from beyond Earth's atmosphere. Unofficially, it was America's shield against something they'd been expecting for decades. A man in his late 60s, face shadowed, voice digitally altered, appeared on a conspiracy livestream. He called himself Rook. We were tracking it long before the public heard the signal. Something was moving toward Earth, and it wasn't natural. Black Mirror wasn't built to watch the stars. It was built to keep them out. Within hours, the live stream was removed from all major platforms. The host's channel was permanently banned. Black Mirror's origins trace back to 1962, in the aftermath of the Cuban Missile Crisis. While the world feared nuclear war, secret meetings at the highest levels discussed a different threat, one not from Moscow, but from the void of space. Recently uncovered memos between the CIA and the newly formed NASA referenced object, NIC-17, a metallic anomaly observed in lunar orbit, capable of altering its trajectory mid-flight. In early April 2025, NORAD Space Command detected a massive object entering Earth's orbit at an impossible deceleration. Publicly, they announced satellite debris re-entry. Privately, they moved Black Mirror into full operational status for the first time in decades. This wasn't just a military exercise. This was an intercept. Encrypted communications leaked by an anonymous whistleblower contained a chilling exchange between two operators. Frequency matched. "We're transmitting handshake now." "Wait, they're answering before we send." Moments later, the connection was severed by higher command. All operators were ordered to sign new non-disclosure agreements. Under threat of federal prosecution, the Black Mirror file referenced an old case, the 1980 Rendlesham Forest incident, when U.S. Air Force personnel in the UK reported contact with a craft of unknown origin. Witnesses described symbols etched into its surface, symbols later matched to those seen in 2025 on high-resolution scans of the incoming object. One declassified page included a handwritten note: "They're the same ones. This isn't the first visit." From part the first signal, the missing communications analyst, Dr. Thomas Keller, was rumored to have worked on Black Mirror in its early days. Unconfirmed reports claimed Keller had been transferred to an off-the-books research facility in Nevada, a place insiders called the Looking Glass. Satellite images showed new construction in a restricted desert area, but all public mapping services blurred the site. In May 2025, a hacker collective released 14 gigabytes of stolen military documents. Most were scrambled beyond recovery, except one audio file, labeled B. It contained faint breathing, and a voice, deep, slow, and resonant, speaking in a language no linguist could identify. When played through spectrogram analysis, the voice revealed a hidden image, a black circle, surrounded by 12 jagged lines, eerily similar to an eclipse. 2 days later, a secure satellite channel used by Black Mirror went dark. Minutes before the shutdown, an automated broadcast was sent to all U.S. military installations. Black Mirror Protocol Omega. Containment has failed. Prepare for visual contact. If Black Mirror's only job was to stop them from getting here, then what happens when it fails? When the sky goes silent, it's never a good sign. After Black Mirror's failure in April 2025, air traffic controllers across the globe began to report an impossible pattern: entire flight paths vanishing from radar. On May 11, 2025, Flight 882, a domestic passenger jet traveling from Dallas to Denver, disappeared from FAA radar without a distress call. It didn't crash. It didn't explode. One moment it was there. The next, nothing. The FAA issued a temporary grounding of all flights in the region, citing technical issues. But an air traffic controller, speaking anonymously, had a different story. "It wasn't a glitch. I saw it. The blip didn't fade. It jumped, like instantly, 200 miles off course. Then it was gone." In the weeks following, at least 7 civilian pilots reported unmarked aerial craft pacing their planes at impossible speeds. None of those reports appear in official FAA records today. Leaked internal memos revealed an FAA directive: any and all unusual sightings are to be referred to the Department of Defense. Do not log details in civilian databases. On May 24th, in the small town of Alpine, Texas, residents woke to the sound of an engine roaring low over their rooftops, followed by an abrupt, unnatural silence. An amateur radio hobbyist captured a short, chilling audio clip from the emergency frequency. "Mayday, mayday, unidentified craft at my wing. Jesus." It's the voice cuts mid-sentence. No aircraft matching that call sign ever landed. No wreckage was recovered. Multiple witnesses from rural Texas described waking up hours later than they remembered. Watches and phones showed the correct date, but the wrong time. Hours lost, without explanation. One woman recalled seeing a wall of light above her barn before blacking out. Her security cameras captured nothing, except 3 minutes of pure white static. Then came the most disturbing link of all. Independent analysts found the radar jump pattern from Flight 882 matched anomalies from the still unsolved disappearance of Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 in 2014. The similarities were exact. Same instantaneous lateral displacement, same loss of transponder signal, same silence from military radars. Satellite imagery in late May revealed several major U.S. military air bases had quietly grounded their fleets. Hangars full, runways empty. An encrypted Air Force message leaked online contained only 2 words, "Visual confirmed." On June 2, 2025, a regional ATC feed in Alaska was hijacked for 12 seconds. Controllers reported hearing an unidentifiable voice, deep and metallic, saying, "The sky is no longer yours." Within 48 hours, the FAA, NORAD, and the Pentagon issued a joint press release dismissing all incidents as misidentifications and technical errors. But the skies told a different story. They were empty. For the first time since the dawn of commercial aviation, passenger flights in certain U.S. regions dropped to near zero. Without any public explanation, the silence wasn't just in the skies, it was in the truth. Something was here, and for reasons we weren't told, it wanted us grounded. When the skies went silent, the oceans began to speak, and what they said didn't come from this earth. On June 10, 2025, the USS Ardent, a U.S. Navy destroyer patrolling the Central Pacific, picked up a sonar contact, moving at 230 knots, faster than any known submarine. It wasn't just fast, it was quiet. Submarines make noise, propellers, cavitation. This thing, it was like it was sliding through the water. Within minutes, the contact dove from 800 feet to over 20,000 feet, a depth no human vessel could survive. The event was filed under Unidentified Submerged Object, a classification dating back to the Cold War. Soviet and American navies both kept USO logs, encounters with impossible craft beneath the waves. One declassified Soviet report from 1973 described a massive object that outran nuclear subs in the Arctic, then vanished into an undersea trench. On June 18th, a Japanese deep-sea mining vessel sent a distress call from the Mariana Trench zone. "It's under us. Too big to be a whale. It's circling." The transmission ended in a high-pitched interference scream that damaged recording equipment. 2 days later, the ship was found intact, drifting, completely empty. Analysts noticed similarities between the 2025 events and the mysterious loss of the USS Scorpion in 1968. Officially, the Scorpion sank due to a malfunction, but Navy sonar tapes from the day it vanished recorded something else, a low-frequency, rhythmic pulse, almost like a heartbeat. This same pulse was detected again in June 2025, stronger and closer. A Filipino fishing crew off Palawan accidentally recorded strange underwater clicks while testing new sonar gear. When played at 10x speed, the clicks formed repeating tonal sequences, eerily similar to the 5-tone pattern from the first signal. In part, the first signal. The failure in the skies didn't end Black Mirror. Naval intelligence units, under the same codename, began deploying experimental submersibles, drones equipped with classified propulsion systems, into deep-sea zones tied to the anomalies. One drone feed leaked briefly online before being wiped. A massive shadow passes over the camera. No visible propulsion, no fins, no hull, but a glint of metallic surface reflecting the drone's lights. In late June, a salvage crew in the Pacific recovered a fragment of unknown alloy, smooth, black, and unnaturally warm to the touch. Testing revealed it was composed of isotopes not found in nature, with microstructures resembling circuitry. The fragment was quickly confiscated by men identifying themselves only as Department of Maritime Security. On July 2, 2025, the USS Akeda, a fast attack submarine, sent a final, chilling message before disappearing from all tracking. "We've made visual contact. It's looking at us." The skies had fallen silent. Now the oceans were speaking. And whatever was down there was coming up. It began in the deserts, tiny towns on the edge of nowhere, vanishing overnight. But soon, it wouldn't be just the small places. On July 9, 2025, the town of Aurora, Nevada, population 2,138, went dark. No phone service, no internet, no lights visible from the highway. A state trooper who entered the town at dawn described a scene of frozen normalcy. Cars in driveways, coffee still warm in mugs, but not a single person in sight. It was like they just walked out mid-sentence. No signs of panic, no packed bags, just gone. High-resolution satellite images from the day before and after showed one chilling detail: faint circular ground patterns outside the city limits, each nearly a mile wide. The soil within these circles was scorched to a deep, unnatural black. Radiation sensors registered nothing. Heat scans, however, showed residual warmth, as if the ground itself had been cooked from beneath. Within hours, military roadblocks appeared on all highways leading to Aurora. Official explanation: gas leak requiring full evacuation. Independent journalists attempting to enter were detained under the new Federal Urban Safety Act. A local AM radio station in Aurora continued broadcasting static for 36 hours after the town's disappearance. Then, at 3:14 a.m., a faint voice emerged between bursts of white noise. "We were called." The signal ended abruptly, and the station has been silent ever since. The phenomenon was not new. In 1959, 9 hikers in the Dyatlov Pass incident vanished under similarly bizarre circumstances, leaving behind warm food, intact gear, and no clear cause of death. The official file noted sudden evacuation under duress from an unknown force. Researchers noticed the ground around the Dyatlov campsite bore the same faint circular scorch patterns now appearing in Nevada. On July 18th, the coastal town of St. Mercer, Maine, went silent. Coast Guard patrols found fishing boats drifting unmanned just offshore. Every home was empty, save for one, where a shortwave radio was still transmitting on loop. The lights came from the water. They told us to follow. A week later, a man claiming to be from St. Mercer staggered into a diner 50 miles away. He had no memory of the past 10 days and spoke in short, fragmented sentences. Medical scans revealed an unidentifiable metallic fragment lodged at the base of his skull, and when removed, it dissolved instantly upon contact with air. By August, 5 towns across 3 states had vanished. Each site shared 3 things: the circular scorch marks, a sudden communications blackout, and no trace of its people. Unofficial tallies estimated over 14,000 missing, a number the government refused to confirm. An intercepted military memo linked the vanishings to Project Lookingglass, the same facility rumored to hold Dr. Keller from part the first signal. It contained a single phrase, underlined twice: "Test phase is complete. Initiate transfer." The disappearances weren't random. They were methodical, and whatever was taking them was getting closer to the cities that mattered. The vanished towns weren't the endgame. They were the harvest, and the harvest had a purpose called Project Mirrorstar. In mid-August 2025, an encrypted archive surfaced briefly on a whistleblower site before being deleted within the hour. Its title: Mirrorstar Phase 2. The documents inside were heavily redacted, but certain phrases stood out: genome adaptation, ocular modification, and integration readiness. A voice-only interview with a man claiming to be a Department of Defense. Biotechnologists went viral before disappearing from all major platforms. Mirrorstar isn't about contact, it's about replacement. The people taken, they don't come back the same, if they come back at all. 2 weeks later, in a rural Montana clinic, a nurse reported treating 3 children who had appeared at the roadside, disoriented, barefoot, and speaking in a language no one recognized. Under examination, their pupils were ringed with a reflective, metallic sheen. Blood tests returned inconclusive results. The DNA showed markers not found in any human database. A leaked hospital log from St. Mercer, the vanished Maine town in Part 5. recorded several patients in the week before disappearance showing unexplained neurological changes, elevated sensory perception, abnormal retinal structure, REM sleep cycles lasting up to 12 hours. All records were erased the day after the vanishing. Cases of human alteration weren't new. In 1964, New Mexico police officer Lonnie Zamora reported seeing small, humanoid figures near a landed craft, one of which had eyes that reflected sunlight like mirrors. The detail was buried in the official report, marked as non-essential. That detail was now resurfacing in children born decades later. Satellite analysts identified a new high-security complex in Nevada, roughly 40 miles from the rumored Looking-Glass site. Thermal imaging revealed underground structures and at least 6 heavily guarded entrances. Overhead drone footage captured personnel in biohazard suits escorting restrained individuals into the facility. An audio leak, allegedly from within Mirastar Labs, contained muffled voices and a constant rhythmic clicking. Halfway through, a woman's voice whispered in perfect English, "They're making us like them." Coordinates buried in the leak pointed back to the same location from the first signal in Part 1. The disturbance in the Central Pacific. It wasn't just where they were coming from, it was where the taken were being sent. For 17 minutes, before being cut, a leaked video showed a brightly lit chamber filled with glass cylinders. Inside each, a human figure floated in suspension, eyes closed, bodies motionless. Every single one had the metallic ring in their eyes. The project wasn't a myth. It was real, and the harvest had already begun. On the night of September 3, 2025, the cover-ups failed. The sky burned, the world looked up, and for the first time, everyone saw it. It began over the Central Pacific, a sudden burst of dozens of luminous streaks tearing through the clouds. Social media lit up with videos, bright objects falling not like meteors, but slowing, changing direction mid-air. By midnight, sightings were reported over Hawaii, Alaska, and the western coasts of the Americas. Within hours, the U.S. government issued a statement: annual meteor shower, intensified by atmospheric conditions. But amateur astronomers weren't convinced. Meteors don't stop in mid-descent, and they don't hover over cities before vanishing into the horizon. A viral video from Anchorage, Alaska, showed a glowing sphere descending silently above the port, then releasing smaller lights that scattered into the darkness. They just went in every direction, like they knew where to go. The original uploader deleted their account within 24 hours. Copies of the video began disappearing from platforms in real time. By 2 a.m., rolling blackouts began in over a dozen U.S. cities. Official cause: electrical grid overload. Unofficial cause: according to intercepted FEMA chatter, localized EMP events. Residents in blackout zones reported seeing figures moving through the streets, tall, thin, and unnervingly fast. In San Diego, a Coast Guard helicopter dispatched to track a descending light reported visual contact over the Pacific. "It's opening. My God, it's static." The transmission cut. The helicopter was never recovered. 2 veteran UFO researchers. The events mirrored an alleged 1897 incident in Aurora, Texas, where a so-called airship crashed and its occupant was buried in the local cemetery. The difference now, there was more than one ship, and none of them crashed. From Los Angeles to Vancouver, witnesses described the same thing. Glowing lights moving in perfect formation, silent as the grave, vanishing into clouds as unmarked helicopters swarmed in pursuit. By dawn, every major news network had scrubbed the footage, replacing it with meteor shower explanations. But millions had already seen the truth, and they knew something was coming. At 4:17 a.m., emergency radio bands across multiple states were hijacked for exactly 11 seconds. A low, mechanical voice spoke in English: "We have arrived. Do not resist." The lights weren't just a warning, they were the first wave. The lights were here. The streets whispered with fear. But for some, it wasn't a surprise, because in the shadows, they had been preparing for this moment for decades. In UFO lore, Majestic 12 was said to be a secret committee formed by the U.S. government in 1947 after the Roswell crash. Officially, it was dismissed as a hoax. Unofficially, pieces of its existence kept surfacing in declassified documents. And now, in 2025, those same signatures began reappearing. A leaked Pentagon memo, dated August 29th, bore the stamp, MJ12 Eyes Only. A man in his 70s appeared on an encrypted livestream wearing a full face mask, voice digitally distorted. He claimed to be a retired CIA counterintelligence officer they've known since Eisenhower. Agreements were made. The lights you saw, that's not an invasion, it's the schedule. Before viewers could ask questions, the stream cut to black. Among the leaks was a chilling blueprint called Operation Ark. It outlined emergency protocols, not for defending against a hostile force, but for ensuring the survival of a chosen few. The plan included underground transport corridors, massive deep earth shelters beneath major capitals, evacuation orders labeled priority lineage. In the days after the falling lights, at least 6 investigative journalists vanished. Their last known work involved FOIA requests about Black Mirror, Looking Glass, and Mirror Star. 2 of them had publicly hinted at a human collaboration faction. Inside the US government, urban legends about unmarked black helicopters go back to the 1970s, whispers of covert agencies patrolling American skies. In September 2025, those legends returned. In force, residents in rural Wyoming filmed formations of 3 to 5 black helicopters flying low at night, sometimes hovering over isolated farmhouses for minutes before departing without a sound. A ham radio operator in Arizona intercepted what he believed to be scrambled military traffic. When filtered and slowed, it revealed fragments of conversation. Target secured. DNA confirmed. Transferred to Ark facility. No media exposure. The most disturbing leak of all was a timeline, stretching back to the 1960s, marking major contact events: Roswell, Rendlesham, Phoenix Lights, and finally, a final date, September 21, 2025, labeled Only Assimilation Begins. A separate leak from Geneva hinted that the United Nations had its own version of Majestic 12, a joint contact directorate coordinating with multiple governments for a controlled integration scenario. If the lights were the first wave, then the shadow governments weren't fighting them, they were welcoming them. September 21, 2025, the date on the leaked timeline, the day the protocols were activated, and for the first time in history, Earth officially answered. At Trisuki, the United Nations Security Council held an emergency closed-door session in Geneva. Outside, the media was told it was about a new cyber threat. Inside, it was about the arrival. A leaked transcript, authenticated by linguistic experts, revealed the first agenda item: activation of Level Omega contact protocols. The document outlined a 5-phase response to non-terrestrial arrival. Secure communication via a predetermined frequency, the same 5-tone pattern from part the first signal. Designated reception zones in remote territories. No public access. Population control measures to prevent panic. Transfer of agreed biological resources redacted in the text. Integration phase under Joint Contact Directorate oversight. The language in Phase 5 was eerily similar to testimony from the 1973 Pascagoula abduction, in which 2 fishermen claimed they were told by their captors, "You will be among us." That phrase, "among us," appeared 3 times in the leaked UN document. At 4:42 UTC, a livestream from a rural airfield in Nunavut, Canada, captured what appeared to be a massive, glowing craft descending silently. Minutes later, all cell towers within a 50-mile radius went offline. The stream cut to black. A SETI researcher, Dr. Leela Vaughn, appeared on a late-night webcast just 24 hours before the blackout. "We've been receiving their responses for months. The delay in telling you wasn't fear, it was preparation." When the host asked, "Preparation for what?" Dr. Vaughn paused, then simply said, "To give them what they asked for." She died in what was called a traffic accident. Less than 2 days later, in the days surrounding the activation of contact protocols, 3 senior members of the SETI Institute died under unexplained circumstances. All 3 were involved in signal analysis for the first signal in February 2025. On September 22, governments worldwide initiated simultaneous infrastructure resilience drills. The public was told it was to test against solar flares, but leaked FEMA logs suggested otherwise. The drill's real label was Visual Contact Readiness. At exactly 23:11 UTC, emergency alert systems in 17 countries were hijacked for 20 seconds. The same deep resonant voice heard in part. "I spoke again. The protocol is complete. Prepare for integration." Contact wasn't coming. Contact had already been made. September 25, 2025. For 3 days, the world had been holding its breath. Then, without warning, every screen, every speaker, every signal became theirs. At exactly 19 o'clock UTC, the Global Emergency Alert System activated, not just in one country, but everywhere. Smartphones, television, radio, even aircraft communication systems. For 7 minutes, no human voice was heard. The static cleared, replaced by the deep, resonant tone heard in parts the first signal, parts the night of falling lights, and parts contact protocols. We are here. We have always been here. Your leaders knew. They agreed. Now we begin. As the voice spoke, the screens displayed a sequence of images, cities from around the world, filmed in real time. Above each skyline hovered silent, black silhouettes, their forms shifting in ways the human eye struggled to follow. Some hovered motionless, others extended beams of pale light toward the streets below. In New York, London, Tokyo, reports came in of people simply stopping, standing in place, looking straight up. When approached, their eyes reflected the same metallic rings seen in the mirror-eyed children from Part Project Mirror Star. A group of hackers, tracing the hijack signal, intercepted a classified US military video feed. It showed a situation room, senior officials watching the broadcast with grim resignation. No one spoke, until a single voice broke the silence. Phase 2 confirmed. Initiate arc evacuation. Moments before his disappearance, the whistleblower known as Rook from Part 2 sent an encrypted audio file to multiple journalists. This was never about war, it was about transfer. We're not fighting them, we're handing it over. Veterans of broadcast history compared the event to the infamous 1987 Max Headroom signal intrusion. But this wasn't a prank. This was the takeover of the world's communication network by something not human. As the broadcast neared its end, the voice spoke one last time. We are your future and your past. Welcome to the fold. Then, nothing. No signal, no internet, no electricity. The world plunged into the kind of quiet humanity hadn't known for 100 years. And somewhere, in that silence, the integration began. We called it the War of the Worlds. But in the end, it was never our war. You've just survived War of the Worlds 2025. For now. But remember, the story isn't over. The shadows are still watching. And the next chapter could drop any moment. So, you know the drill. Smash that like button, share this with your crew, and subscribe before the signal finds you.